Welcome to Blueprint Radio. I'm your host, Martin Williams. Here we help you create a blueprint for your life. So let's build. And welcome to Blueprint Radio. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You may do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. All the links to the podcast can be found at guidedexpressions.com/podcast with an S, or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. So this is day 2 of The Power of Decision, my 30-day journey through this very powerful book written by Raymond Charles Barker. And you can buy the book anywhere that books are sold, Amazon, Google Play. You can buy the book anywhere. So hopefully you can get a chance to do that. This is really one of the more powerful self-help books that's ever been written. It was written in the 1968 to be exact. But yeah, this is one of those books where I think you need to not only have it, but read it again and again and again. I think more things will come out each time that you read it. Anyway, so let's go on into day 2, and I'm going to start this by talking about what Barker wrote as far as relying on your 5 senses. And I think this is a habit that a lot of us have, is that we rely on what we see, smell, touch, feel, and taste, right? And, our senses relate us to the world outside of us, right? It's the way that we can interact with other people and interact with the earth itself, right? But we can't just rely on our senses, because just because you can't see something or touch it or feel it doesn't mean that it's not real. Think about a Wi-Fi signal, right? I'm using a Wi-Fi signal right now in my home, and anywhere you go, pretty much, you have Wi-Fi, right? And that Wi-Fi allows you to go onto the internet and do all kinds of business and interact with all kinds of people. But have you ever seen a Wi-Fi signal? Okay, I would dare to venture that you have not, right? So even though a Wi-Fi signal is something that you cannot see, doesn't mean it's not real, because it is real, right? And so that's the way that you need to approach not only this subject, but pretty much any subject in life, is that there are things that are seen and there are things that are unseen. And the way that Barker explained it, he said that we need to create new ideas, right? It's easy to lean on that which we have experienced, that which we have gone through, seen, heard before. It's easy to rely on that. But if we truly want to think in the way that I think God wants us to think, we should create new experiences, new things that we haven't experienced before. And I'm not saying that it necessarily has to be a scary thing, because we live in a world of infinite possibilities. So there's no possibility that's not, that's not something that you can't have, right? But we have to kind of think outside the box, when it comes to the way that we approach it, right? And we have to demand our mind to create new ideas. It's easy to, using a business example, it's easy to recreate something that someone has already done, right? It's easy to say, okay, I'm going to make my own version of McDonald's, right? And, you could do that. And many companies have done that, whether it's, Wendy's or Burger King or what have you. They created their own version of McDonald's, copying a lot of the systems and everything else. And, they were able to make quite a bit of money in the process, but they were never able to become the number 1 fast food place in America. None of those companies, not even Chick-fil-A, which has better food than all of them, is number one in the world. It's still McDonald's, okay? Because McDonald's innovated something, right? If you watch The Founder, which is a excellent movie for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, watch that movie, and it tells a story about McDonald's and about Ray Kroc, right? And basically Ray Kroc purchased the franchise from McDonald's, and then ultimately created the corporation. The way that he did it was not above board, as far as ethics are concerned. But I think there's a story to be learned there as far as innovating something that doesn't exist yet. And I think that's the way that we need to think. We need to think in terms of what doesn't exist yet, especially if you're a business person, right? Doing something that hasn't been done yet. And to me, that is where the breakthrough happens. And that's where God really gets involved, because he wants to do new things through all of us. And the only way that it gets done is through us in the earth, right? So Barker continues, and he says, we need new ideas because there's an untold amount of unrealized ideas in what I call the kingdom of heaven, or in the unseen realm. And when we connect to those ideas, we become energized and excited. So let's say that we went to see a movie yesterday. It's the Aretha Franklin biopic, right? And it was a good movie. Jennifer Hudson really did an outstanding job in that movie. But if that movie had been made 4 or 5 times before, then I wouldn't have been so excited to see it, right? I wouldn't have been so excited to, pay money to experience it. Because I think that a lot of times what happens, especially in Hollywood, is that the same thing is done over and over again, and it's done to death. And then 10 years or 20 years later, they resurrect it and do the same thing again. And it gets to a point where you wonder, is there any creativity in Hollywood left? Is there anyone doing new things in Hollywood? And I know that there are, but I know that it gets a little frustrating sometimes, because you turn on the TV and it's like, this again, like they're basically redoing something that's been done 100 times. But we shouldn't live our lives like that, right? We should get to a place where we start connecting to ideas that haven't been realized, either by us or by the world, right? What is that thing that you've always wanted to do, but maybe you thought, well, it wouldn't work, or maybe you thought that no one's ready for that? That's the thing that you want to bring forth. That's the thing you want to really realize, because I think that that's where our true creativity comes alive. It comes alive with the new things. When you're breaking new ground and doing things that haven't been done yet, that's where you really start tapping into your power. So Barker continues, excuse me. Pardon me. So Barker continues, and he says, you don't have to live with the things that you don't want, and that you should reject what you don't want. So if there's things in your life that you're not comfortable with, you have to mentally dispatch of that idea. And when you get rid of the idea takes the thing with it, right? Now, you may be in a relationship that's not life-giving. You're arguing with that person all the time. You guys never see eye to eye. You're both very, very unhappy. It may be a situation where the two of you have just, you've gone to counseling, you've talked to people, and it just has not gotten better. Well, at the bottom of that, or at the root of that, is an idea that I have to be in a relationship that's not healthy, right? Or I have to be with this person because I can't afford to leave, or I have to be with this person because I don't want to be alone, and I'm at the age where I don't want to date anymore, or I'm at the point in my life where I don't want any more change. Like I don't want to change what I'm doing, right? So these are the ideas that keep that unhealthy relationship intact. What you have to do is that you have to dispatch of any idea that doesn't serve you. Who wants to be miserable in a relationship? I know I don't, right? And I think most of you would agree. You don't want to be in a miserable relationship. So what you have to do is that you got to dispatch of the idea that you have to be in that. Dispatch of the idea that you have to be fighting all the time. Dispatch of the idea that you have to be miserable all the time. At the bottom of everything is an idea. So once you get rid of the idea, right, or thought, you can, basically switch the words around. Once you get rid of the idea, it takes the experience with it. Now, what that means, it may not be the cleanest, right? It may not be the cleanest activity as far as, how it manifests. Like the way that it manifests may not be, cut and dry, right? It may take some things to happen in order for that to manifest, but you won't be miserable anymore, right? Sometimes it means taking the both of you through a situation where, you start being more grateful for one another, and it changes the tenor of the house and the tenor of the conversation. And it's no longer nitpicking and complaining and, mentally complaining or mentally arguing, which a lot of us do. It becomes, wow, I'm really grateful for this person being in my life and grateful for this person choosing to be with me. And, even though things aren't perfect, there's no one else I want to be with, right? Getting to that place instead of being in the place where you are now. You can reject any idea. You can reject any idea of poverty, of lack. If you're someone who constantly runs short at the end of the month, constantly is not able to do the things you want to do because of money, all of that is an idea. You have to get rid of the idea of poverty, of lack, of not having enough, of always struggling financially. It's an idea, and when you get rid of the idea, it takes the experience with it. It's very important. As long as you understand that ideas and experiences are linked, that you can change any experience in your life just by changing the idea. Now, there's certain activities that you have to engage in to keep that idea around. It's like a feedback loop, but whatever you say no to has to leave, and it clears out any confusion and congestion in your life. So the last thing that I want to talk about for today is how to clear out problems. And I basically just went through the process, right? But Barker goes into a little more detail, and he says that when you decide that a problem is going to leave, it has to leave. And, basically this is the whole concept of the power of decision, is that we have the power to make decisions in our life that affect our lives. We're not victims. We don't have to put up with things that we don't want to put up with, right? So if you want to clear out a problem in your life, you have to decide that it's going to leave. And once you decide that, it has to leave. Now, the problem with a lot of people is that they'll do that and then they'll start thinking about the problem again, and that's not helpful. That's not productive. You want to stop thinking about the problem. Again, ideas and experiences are linked. So as long as you think about whatever that idea is, let's say it's let's say it's a work issue, and you want to maybe change your job or something like that. If you think about the problem of there's no jobs around, right, that idea will bring the experience of no jobs to you, even though there's millions of jobs out here. If you think there's no jobs or you think there's no good jobs, then that's going to manifest in your life. So when you decide, okay, I'm getting rid of that idea, and I know there's a ton of jobs out here, and I'm going to find one, right? And you just start thinking on that wavelength and stay on that wavelength, eventually what's going to happen is that you're going to find a good job. But if you keep thinking about, well, there's no jobs and there's no, there's no good jobs out here and no good paying jobs out here, then you're going to continue to experience that. Whatever you think about is what you give energy to. Now, there's nothing new about that. I'm not breaking any new ground with that. But I think that people, even though it's a simple concept and something that most people understand, they don't live in on a day-to-day basis. So I want to thank you for listening to this day 2 of The Power of Decision. I'm going to come back for day 3, and we're going to start actually continue with our discussion of intelligence and wrap up chapter 1 and move on into chapter 2 for day 4. So please let me know if this is helping you. You can visit me on Instagram, MW Coach. You can also visit me on Facebook. All the links are in the description box. So, just let me know in the comment section or wherever if this is helping you in any way. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to Blueprint Radio. For more information on Martin Williams Coaching and products, please go to guidedexpressions.com or visit me on Facebook as well as Instagram.